So let's go ahead and take a trip down memory lane, shall we? I'm about to hit you right in some nostalgia, and let me tell you that I was not ready for it either, because today we are going to talk about AdventureQuest. So hi, my name is Samutari, and I tend to review some games sometimes, and I like to play them on my channel. And I'm going to take you back to one of my earliest experiences with RPGs. And we're going to go ahead and start this off by talking about the AdventureQuest history. So looking into the actual history of the game, as far as the actual history itself goes, AdventureQuest is a single-player RPG that has a turn-based fighting style. It was a Flash game released in 2002 by Artix Entertainment. Artix Entertainment is overall just an indie video game developer and publisher, and it was founded by one Adam Bond in October of 2002. All the games from Artix Entertainment run via their website, which is battleon.com, but there's not really much more to it than that, at least not that I was able to find. I know that Artix Entertainment has released other games, and some of them I also played alongside AdventureQuest when I was young, but ultimately, like I said, there's just not a lot I was able to find, even from the Wikipedia and the fandom page. So if you were looking for this in-depth history of the game and what it was all about, well, unfortunately, I don't really have much. But I do think it's kind of inspiring that this person was able to make their own game and that it really took off as well as it did, because now we have a bunch of things like AdventureQuest Worlds, AdventureQuest 3D, and even IdleQuest, which is a little AdventureQuest idle thing that I've never tried, but maybe I will in the future. So they seem to be doing well for themselves, all things considered, so I guess dreams do really happen. I just wish that I kind of knew more about this person and what really inspired their ideas and what made them want to create something like AdventureQuest. Maybe I'll look more into it in the future, try and search more into it, but for now, I was only able to dig so far before I figured that was enough history. Alright, so I talked your ear off a little too much about the history that doesn't technically exist on any page that I was looking for, so let's go ahead and talk about the game mechanics instead. This is a super simple RPG. So in AdventureQuest, players will fight monsters in order to gain experience, and when they level up they get stat points in order to build their character. Depending on what class you play, that'll depend on the traits that you want to build up, like your strength, your endurance, dexterity, that sort of thing. AdventureQuest does have a few different classes, and when I say a few, they have three. It's just a very, very limited class system, and then it has an even more limited character creator. As the character levels up, they have access to better weapons and armor. Each armor and weapon set has an elemental type, and different enemies are weak to different types of weapons. And so as a player, you would need multiple weapons and sets of armor to really tip the scales of battle in your favor. Think of it like Pokemon. So if you have a fire monster, they're going to be weak to water type elements. I've also noticed fire type monsters that are weak to ice. There's a lot of elements in this game, so clearly, certain elements are weaker to others, and so you want to have the element equipped that is going to do the most damage to an enemy. There's really not any interaction with other players, so if anybody ever says that it's anything along the lines of an MMORPG, that's not true at all. I don't remember any character interaction at all in AdventureQuest, and if it is there, then there's probably a PvP sort of function or maybe an arena where you can do that, but other than that, there's just no interaction with any other players that I remember or that I even seen. The game does have a system of quests and mini stories that players can embark upon, and on top of the weapons and armors, players can also buy things like spells, they can buy pets to aid them in battle, they can recruit allies, NPC allies, and they can even create potions. So like I said, just a super simple, basic RPG, and it's very reminiscent of Dungeons and Dragons and how it functions. When you fight an enemy, you'll be able to check out their stats. You can hover over their player icon and it'll tell you what they're weak against, the chances of hitting them based on, whatever element you have equipped or something like that. It'll tell you their element. It just gives you a bunch of numbers and you have to be able to interpret those numbers. Some enemies will actually be healed by certain elements, so you have to be careful of that. And until you start to kind of get the hang of like what you're fighting and what its element is, you'll really just want to rely on checking out those stats. But for a kid, I don't think I would have figured that out, and even if I did, I wouldn't be able to really understand what any of those numbers meant or what I was supposed to do. So, but it is all part of the game mechanics. If your character's low on health, you can go rest at an inn, and that'll heal up your party. There are ways to, I guess, upgrade your character, but we'll go into that a little bit later, just to give you a little bit of a, I guess, leg up when it comes to the game. And, of course, there are different types of functions. You can travel to different places versus the travel map. There used to be weekly and monthly events, and some of the shops actually do have rotating inventory. So it is something that you would want to check daily or weekly for when those things change. It really tries to play itself off as this super interactive world, but ultimately it's still just a Flash game. So again, there's not a lot of interacting, other than coming back for the weekly and monthly changes, and maybe catching like a special event with maybe a special item. I wouldn't say that there's a lot to do other than fighting monsters, leveling up, and just rinse and repeat until you have a character that is at the max level cap. The max level cap is 135 for regular players and 150 for Elite Guardians. So this is something I actually found very interesting about AdventureQuest, and that was the fact that there seemed to be a lack of story. So, funnily enough, I could never remember the story for AdventureQuest, and replaying it in 2022, it doesn't even seem to have one. Even the Wikipedia doesn't mention anything about a main storyline, and not even the fandom wiki says anything, even though it claims that the lore of AdventureQuest is very deep. I'm sure that the lore got better expanded upon in Dragon Fable and AdventureQuest 3D, but as for classic AdventureQuest, there really is nothing. I mean, occasionally a quest will lead you into some sort of plot or story, but even that's very short-lived, and it doesn't seem to paint a larger picture of the world of Babylon and lore. So it seems to me like it's more of a make-your-own-adventure thing, or it's more of a one-shot, basically, where you're just stuck in one story, and then once you complete that one story, you just move on to the next, and it doesn't seem to have like a continuous arc. So like I said, it just seems like a make-your-own-adventure thing, and even for being such a small and limited RPG, I really just don't like that about it. The thing is I play role-playing games for the adventure, clearly, and most of that adventure comes from an interactive story. Even the most open-ended RPGs usually have some baseline, some canon lore somewhere that you can kind of run with, even when you're making your own fun. So the fact that this game is just so devoid of that is weird to me. Essentially, you're just doing turn-based battle over and over and over again, and for what? Where did these enemies come from? Why are they there in the first place? Because some of them are just typical creatures, but then some of them are like crazy undead, and some of them are massive dragons, so you're just wondering, where do they come from? Why are they, why are some of these things evil, even though they just don't seem like they would be? You're fighting aliens and hydras and weird undead centipede things, and it's just like, okay, how have they come about? So I don't know, just trying to think about it and like wonder like where these enemies came from, what's the purpose of our character. Even the Grim Reaper, he basically says you're meant for great things. Okay, so where's that going? Why are we meant for great things? Is there a prophecy? Like, what's the prophecy? I don't understand. We meet Artix the Knight. When did he become a knight? What king is he serving? He's obviously a guardian. What's so special about the guardians? There's just a lot of things that aren't explained. It's way too open-ended. I wish that there was more of a story to draw me in, but unfortunately there's not. So you just kind of start fighting things and you roll with it. And as a kid, I loved this game. And so Obviously, I didn't care too much, but now as an adult, I clearly have some sort of standard, and, just accepting the fact that there's no story is just, I can't. So, the only thing that seems constant in this universe is that the Drackle, or dragon people, they seem to be somewhat of an antagonistic force. They seem like they're the evil, since they're constantly mentioned, and dragons in general just seem to be one of the main enemies, so that just further cements it in my mind that anything dragon related is going to be evil in this universe, and that we need to stop it for some reason. So now we're moving into my favorite part of this whole thing, where I basically tell you a story, and that is why it's called Nostalgia Time. So I'm pretty sure that I saw this game advertised on Neopets back in the day. And how many of you can remember Neopets, okay? That, gives away my age, But either way, I was in middle school when I first found and started to play AdventureQuest, and for someone that was running off of dial-up internet, this game was really cool because it was one of the few that I could actually run. I had, AOL 5.0 and MSN 8.0 because my dad had one and my mom had the other, So playing browser games like this that were very simple and usually ran pretty well, all things considered, even with dial-up, it was really cool. And I really loved that it had a character creator, because it was one of my first experiences with being able to create my own character and then have that character be a hero in a video game. So I think this is what started me on the path of just being obsessed with MMOs and really being able to create my own character, because I was already role-playing back then and, already creating characters in my head all the time. So being able to take a character from my head and make it real and see it in a video game and see it interacting and fighting monsters, that to me was just astounding. So back in the day, AdventureQuest to me was just the most amazing game ever. But, nowadays it's kind of a different story. But, so, like I said, I was in middle school when I started to play AdventureQuest, and I was clearly very bad at it. There is a single memory which is kind of, really plastered in my mind. It's heavily ingrained in my mind. And I just remember that I had a character, she had red hair, and her name was, I believe, Element Gold or Erse, one of the two. So she had red hair, blue eyes, this golden armor, and this massive greatsword that I thought was the coolest thing in the world, but I forget what it looks like. All I remember is that I thought it was awesome. And I was trying to fight this massive forest troll. It was part of some enemy gauntlet, so you had to keep defeating enemies one right after the other until you got to this boss battle, which was the troll, and for some odd reason, I could just never get past it. I had spells which allowed me to summon companions, but it seemed like no matter what I did, I just could not beat this forest troll. And it really was my first time rage quitting, because I would fight it just over and over and over again. And if you lost, you had to start the gauntlet all over. And looking back at it now, I clearly had not leveled my character properly. I didn't know about the skill point system, because playing it in 2022, that was new to me. So I didn't know about the skill point system. I was using spells even though I was a fighter. So I was using spells for companions rather than just buying pets. So I was running out of MP, magic power, to use for my companion skills. And if I ran out of my companion skills, I found that I was just stuck because my character was unable to do damage. Of course, back then when I was playing it, maybe certain functions weren't available. Maybe they didn't have, the skill point system, and maybe they didn't have a separation of, summoning companions and pets, but I'm pretty sure that either way, I wasn't matching, armor and weapon types. I was only kind of going for what looked cool. So, whether certain mechanics existed in this game or not, it was clear that I was still doing something very, very wrong. I would come back to AdventureQuest probably a few more times, and I would always run into the same issue. Though I don't remember there ever being a tutorial, unlike, this recent time that I played it. At least in this new tutorial, it tells you how to build up your character as you level. It also shows you, what all the buildings do and what you can get there. I do remember as a child seeing the Elite Guardian perk. And for those of you that may not know, you can basically buy a one-time Guardian Pass for a single character on your account. Elite Guardian status gives you a higher max level cap of 150. It gives you access to a ton of extra content and quests, and it even has elite armor you can wear, elite weapons, and elite pets. It also kind of gives you this special currency called Z tokens, and there's special items that you can buy with those Z tokens. You can get Z tokens in the game normally just by battling, but you don't get them very often. So if you want to spend real money, you can buy Z tokens. But I just remember being a kid and I was just drooling all over these cool weapons and armors that you could get, and I kept wishing I just had the money for it. Namely things like the fabled dragon sword or something, the dragon blade. And, it just looked so amazing. And then all the Guardians just had this special golden jeweled armor, and I needed it. I wanted it in my life. I think at one point I even begged my dad for Guardian access, and, I pulled the whole, but Dad, it's only $20 one time. But looking back, early 2000s, like, $20 could have filled your car. Like, it could have given you a whole tank of gas. So, and then some. So thinking about asking my dad for $20, like, that was probably insane. So, of course, when I told him that I wanted Guardian access, I was swiftly told no. So coming back to this game in 2022, it is pretty much how I remember it. Even if you can travel to places and go through dungeons and quests, the game is still very minimal. Then again, it is a Flash game, so in some ways it has an excuse as to why. It's a good introduction to RPGs for those wondering what a classic RPG is like and what it feels like. The art style is severely outdated. It leaves a lot to be desired. But the art style is severely outdated, and sometimes it's just downright weird and questionable. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. But that's okay. The lack of sounds is what really weirds me out a lot of the time, and just how repetitive and boring the game itself is. Even knowing how to properly level a character, the RNG in this game can be downright unfair at times, in my opinion. And though I didn't die in the 6 levels that I recently played, I got to the lower areas of my health bar, and I couldn't see how that had actually happened when I felt like I was doing everything right. So is the game challenging? Well, now that I know how to play the game, no, not really. Like I said, most enemies just come down to RNG, and even after you equip all the proper gear, it's hard for there to be a challenge when most things are left up to chance. Once again, this would be great as a baby's first RPG experience, but other than that, I wouldn't say that it's something that's actually worth playing in 2022. In conclusion, will I continue playing this game? Well, actually, I might. For as much as I harp on it, I think I actually want to check out some of the quests in different areas once I reach a higher level, assuming I have the patience to actually get that far. I want to see if maybe I can find that forest troll again and take him down, just to see if it was just, bad luck with the RNG, or if my theory is correct and I just really did not know what I was doing in this game and I totally sucked. Otherwise, anything else that I try in the game would really just be for the sake of archiving it and posting it to my gaming blog. Would I recommend this game to others? Well, like I said, beforehand, not really. It's an old game. It is way past its prime, and it just doesn't offer half the appeal of what other free RPGs have to offer nowadays. I would say play it again if you're feeling nostalgic for it, if you're my age and you remember playing it as a kid and you're like, man, I really miss AdventureQuest. Then I'd say go ahead and, download it and play it. You really have nothing to lose. But, otherwise, Artix Entertainment has so many other games that you could play that are just better quality and a lot more fun. Again, if you like the AdventureQuest universe, I would highly recommend Dragon Fable and then trying out AdventureQuest 3D. AdventureQuest 3D still has a pretty active community from what I've heard. I've never played it myself. And I remember when Dragon Fable came out, and I remember liking it so much more than AdventureQuest, even though the difficulty seemed a lot higher. So I tended to go between the two, between Dragon Fable and AdventureQuest, because I liked Dragon Fable for how it looked, but I didn't like the difficulty. But again, back then, I really sucked at games, so when I do try it again, I'm pretty sure my experience will be a lot different. But that's really all it comes down to. It's not a bad game. It's a game. Like, it functions. And that's really what it comes down to, is it is a game and it functions. It doesn't look great. You know, animations are lazy. Enemies are kind of interesting sometimes. Sound is horrible. But I ended up falling in love with some of the pets, and I really did get a chuckle out of playing this game again. You know, seeing the different armor sets, going from huge plate armor as a female to buying an armor set that put me in a gladiator type costume that didn't even match my skin tone when I have a female's face, and you know, suddenly I just have these rippling, you know, manly muscles, you know. Clearly, again, character creator was super limited, and the armor sets were limited too, so they basically made all the armor sets revolve around male characters, and so it really is funny to see when I equip some of these items. The weapons still look really cool to me. Like, I'm just a sucker for good weapon and good armors, and you can tell that all their attention to detail went into the weapons and armor. Everything else is just kind of lazy. And even some of the characters that you see, they look kind of cool, but then other ones just look super generic. And when you see them in battle, they just look horrible. So, you know, it's a game, it works, it's something to pass the time, but I wouldn't expect anyone to get addicted to it or play it through to any sort of completion. In fact, I don't even know if a completion is possible, since there doesn't seem to be any storyline, and since Elite Guardianship unlocks elite, you know, special content, any story-related stuff that might finish the game or end the game, I think is blocked behind a paywall, though I can't say for certain. So feel free to let me know in the comments down below. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching my video on AdventureQuest. I hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane just as much as I did. I do want to check out the other games in the series. I want to go back into Dragon Fable and see if that's also just as I remember it. And I plan on trying out AdventureQuest 3D, because from what I've seen, it looks really, really good. And if it is actually an MMO and it's worth playing, well, then that would be pretty cool. And I'd like to see if there is a story. Like, I'd like to see if there is some lore to this universe. And once I figure it out, you know, I might come back and see what lore I can apply to classic AdventureQuest and see if it makes any sense. But anyways, as always, let me know what you think. Post your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Let's start a conversation about it. And thank you guys so much for continuing to support my channel. I know that my near reincarnation videos have been giving me the most attention, and you all seem to really like those, especially people that don't have time for the app or were just curious about the app and don't want to play it. More videos of that, of course, are coming soon, and I do have some other game series I want to play as well. So if there is something you want me to check out, and if there's something you want me to try, especially if it's like a free-to-play MMO or something like AdventureQuest that you think I'd be interested in, go ahead and let me know about it, and I might just check it out in a future video. But thank you once again, and I will see you all in the next video. Ciao, guys.